Hi and welcome back to Walk Wild. My name is Matt and today I'm going to be telling you how to train for a long distance hike. I have walked 500 miles of long distance trails in the UK in the last year alone. So I've had a lot of experience with this and I thought it was about time I passed on some tips to you guys. I mean, there are so many great long distance trails around the world, from the Pacific Crest Trail and the Appalachian Trail in the US to the Camino de Santiago and the Tour de Mont Blanc in Europe. And also in the UK here with the Southwest Coast Path and the West Highland Way, which are both very famous and beautiful walks. I myself completed the 100-mile South Downs Way, the 84-mile Hadrian's Wall Path, the 186-mile Pembrokeshire Coast Path, and the 41-mile Gower Peninsula Coast Path. And so I've had a lot of trial and error. I've done lots of training. I've done everything I can to try and make these trips as successful as possible. And I'm going to tell you how you guys can train in the same way and get the most out of your walks. Number one is weight training. Begin with weight training because this is going to be a very physical and strenuous hike. If you're doing any kind of hike that's long distance, you're going to be carrying your backpack with all your equipment in, your sleeping gear, and that's going to be heavy, and you're going to be walking all day every day, and it's going to be back to back. You're not going to have much time for your muscles to recover, and it's very strenuous, so you need to be prepared for that. And weight training is going to be a way to help strengthen your body before your hike. It'll allow your muscles time to recover and grow and build up before your trip. Mainly, you want to focus on your legs, which are obviously going to take the brunt of the work, and your core, but your back and shoulders are also important because they'll be carrying your backpack. Try to opt for low weight and high frequency when you're training because you don't need to be lifting huge weights for short periods of time. You want to be accustomed to extended periods of stress at a lower weight, which will more stimulate the conditions of hiking. There are lots of movements you can do. If you have access to a gym, then obviously you've got a lot more options for weights, and you want to be looking at compound movements. Squats and deadlifts are probably the two best you could do, and if you mix those in with some isolation exercises, then that's going to really help you as well. You don't have to have access to a gym. Obviously in this pandemic time, a lot of my training has been from home. I just bought a pair of dumbbells and I did a lot of dumbbell lunges, calf extensions, calf raises, walking lunges, all that kind of stuff in my garden at home. My second tip is to do yoga and stretching. Believe it or not, I completely overlooked this, and I walked the whole of the Annapurna circuit in Nepal, which is in the Himalayas, without doing any yoga or stretching. And I kept doing this over the years. I went to Norway, I went to Iceland, I was doing all these hikes without having proper training. And I kept getting these small injuries, or I was feeling really achy or really painful, and I just thought, this is ridiculous. What am I actually doing here? And I put some time into researching and figured out that, I was completely neglecting stretching. I wasn't stretching properly, and I'd never even tried yoga. So I incorporated both of those into my training schedule. So to begin with, you want to do some warm-up stretches before you set off. And then you also want to do some warm down stretches at the end of the hike. Often people just completely neglect the stretching at the start because they think it's a walk and they don't think you need to stretch for a walk, but hiking is a lot more physical, and especially these long distance hikes we're talking about. So you need to train and prepare just like you would for a marathon or any other endurance event. So I spend 15 to 20 minutes stretching before and after. I like to start at my legs and focus on my Achilles tendons, my calves, my thighs and glutes. I then move up to my hips and my shoulders and even my neck, because I get hiker's neck from carrying my backpack, which is this kind of nasty, achy strain that I get around my neck. So I want to make sure that's moving fine, it doesn't seize up or anything. You should begin with static stretches and then try to incorporate some more movement as your body warms up. At the end of the day, you can follow a similar stretch pattern, but try to hold each stretch for longer, and you'll feel which part of your body needs more stretching at the end of the hike, and just listen to your body and just try and ease up anything that's feeling stiff or aching. In addition to this, yoga is incredibly useful. It helps to work out your tendons and your ligaments and increases your flexibility and your core strength, all of which are massively helpful for hiking. And so I started doing yoga in the lead ups to my hikes. to make sure that I could get more preparation, but I also do some yoga out on the trail if I have a bit of time in the evening as well, which is like an add-on to my stretching. I'm not a yoga guru, and there's probably a lot of things I'm doing wrong. I don't really know the names for lots of the movements and the positions. I'm still learning, and I, like most people, started by watching Yoga with Adriene, which I'll link below on YouTube, and I just follow along with those and then try to remember some myself. And it's really simple and easy to do. Just for a beginner, it's great. And you know, I'm a beginner to yoga, and even though I've only just started doing it, I found it really useful, and I'm going to try and keep doing it as much as possible. The next training tip I have is to go on warm-up walks. So this is really important. This is probably the most likely thing that you're already going to be doing, which is going on shorter walks over varying terrain to build up your endurance ready for your long hike. I would try to include different landscapes and consider what kind of terrain you're going to be hiking when you go on your long hike. I also think you should try and target steps, so go to hills and places with lots of ups and downs, because those seem to be the areas that really get you when you're out on your hikes. They're much more difficult on your tendons and your joints and everything. And if you've had some time training with them before you go, then you're going to be ready for what the long hike throws at you. So try to start with some 5-mile walks. Maybe you could just go in the evenings. Try and do it as often as possible rather than leaving it to just one weekend a month of training. Try and do it progressively. So then after you've done a few 5-mile walks, do some 8 to 10 mile hikes, and then lastly a couple 10-mile hikes as your final training sessions. But don't push yourself too hard because you might get injured. Just basically do trial and error. You know, bring your backpack, test some of your gear, test your hiking boots you want to take on the trail, wear them in, and the socks. Get everything ready so you're really comfortable with how you walk, what your pace is, how much water you drink, all that kind of stuff. It's just so useful, and it'll make it second nature when you're out on the trail for real. And this ties into my final point, which is getting to know your equipment. So you should try to go on maybe just a couple camping or wild camping trips before you go away, maybe just one night, to test a lot of your sleeping equipment and cooking gear, because I found that is the stuff that goes wrong the most. And you know, I went on a wild camping trip to the Peak District before I went on the Hadrian's Wall hike. I found out that my gas didn't work and that my airbed had deflated and all this kind of stuff. If I hadn't done that and then I'd gone on the Hadrian's Wall hike, then I would have found out along the way and it would have been way worse. So it was good that I had this Peak District hike to practice things first. And you know, every time you go on these hikes, you'll gather more info, and it's invaluable. You'll get a clear picture of how to hike and what feels good, what equipment you rate, and all of this will go into helping you train for your long distance hike. I hope you guys have found this information useful. I understand there's a lot to throw at you, and I haven't gone super into detail about exact yoga moves or exact gym training routines. You know, if you found this helpful, please let me know below and I will go into more detail. I've sort of gone for a generalized picture here, but I hope it's been of some use anyway. Comment below, let me know your thoughts. Let me know if there have been any tips that you found really helpful for training for long distance hikes. And as always, if you've enjoyed my video, please like and subscribe. We'll see you next time, guys.